Hey everyone, welcome back. Usually, I do a lot of golf games on here because I have so many, and I probably got another dozen or so that I'll be able to cover. But I thought I would do bowling because bowling is one of those things that offset golf. You play golf in the summer, bowl in the winter, at least up in the Northeast, that's what we do. So I thought I'd cover some bowling games. I don't have as many bowling games as I used to, probably about 10 to 12 or so, but I got enough to cover some. And if anyone finds them interesting, I might dig some others up and cover those. But I'm going to start with 10th Frame Bowling, which is by Access Software. And this game came out in 1987, but I didn't see it until the 90s when my brother picked up a copy of this on floppy disk, and he's left the floppy disk with me. I still have it. The floppy disk still works. I can still install it on an old Windows 95 or DOS box. So, and I think that's how I got this one. I ripped it and created a little disk image of it, and I'm playing it on Boxer. It's a DOS emulator on my Mac. So, first thing I want to say is this is probably what you would consider a third generation bowling game, because this comes out after things like Atari bowling, Commodore bowling games, C64, stuff like that, bowling games, and television. So I think of like Atari and television, maybe a first gen, then getting into maybe Commodores, and I'm not sure if the TRS-80 has one. I'll have to look that up. But Atari computers, stuff like that, and then this is a DOS-based one, and this is a fantastic bowling game for DOS. My only complaint is the meter. It's the old-fashioned style meter. So this is where you do the click, hold for the speed, release, and then it comes back down and you set your hook. Very similar to like the early golf games before they went to a 3-click, where you click to start, click for speed, we'd say on this instead of a golf game, and then click the hook. So it's very similar to how a golf game would have played in those early days. So you can't really complain too much. But what's nice is you have two angles to attack this at. You've got your and just I bowled for years, so this is pretty impressive. And I was bowling heavily back in the 90s when we found this game. So being able to not just move your body to aim, but to also, be able to move where you're aiming, so your physical body, and then where you're going to throw the ball, and then be able to have speed and hook, and have it all calculating on a game that's just on one floppy disk is really impressive. And the other thing is how smooth this looks. When I'm playing, I'm looking back at it now, but when I was playing, I forgot how smooth the animation was on this. And the pin action is pretty impressive. If you've bowled for many years, obviously this isn't perfect, but the pin action on this is really impressive. You'll see some pins flying around. They'll fly up sometimes. You see them drop back down. It's just super, super accurate feeling for a game this old. And so I'm going to play the 3 modes, and I'm starting off with the kids mode, and the kids mode is mostly straight. You get a little variation with your speed and very little with the hook, but enough that you can't just hit the same, click, 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 and or 2 clicks, and you're going to get a strike every time. You do have to get a little finesse into it. So I kind of fine-tuned where a good spot where I could throw the ball from and get very consistently in the pocket, which is much easier. You'll see as we get to the amateur and the pro levels, it gets very hard. But what's fun about this game is it's not just like you're watching the same pin reaction all the time. It really mixes it up, and I'd love to know how they program this. I don't know the guys that program this, if they've ever talked about it, but it would be great to hear how they put so much into this at the time. But continuing on, the manual says that actually, you can use a joypad or a joystick. Um, I probably would have had a Gravis gamepad, which would have made it easier. Or you can use the keypad, which has your up, down, left, right arrows on that, and then the center button is the 5, which will start rolling the ball. But I have always used the arrow keys because it's much easier, and the space bar. So that's what I'm using to start your approach. You hit the space bar, hold it, release when you want the speed you got, then it'll start dropping back down, set your hook. So that's how I play it. And if you need to, before you release your ball, if you need to adjust, you push up to adjust your target near your arrows up top, and then you push down to adjust your bowler, his position on the lane. Now, again, this kid mode, you'll see I did very well in this game. I played about 3 games before this, and instead of, I'm going to record, but it's been a long time. I probably haven't played this in several years. So you'll see I end up having a very good game. And I'm not going to talk through the other games. I'm going to play amateur level, and I'm going to play professional level, and you'll see that it's not as easy. Because when you're dealing with significant hook, and then even more on the pro level, and then I'm pretty sure the meter's moving faster too on the pro level. So makes it really tough. I'm not a fan of the pro level. It's just too crazy. I like playing, if you just want to feel good, play the kids level, because it's still fun. There's a little bit of hook. But if you want to feel like you're really bowling, play the amateur level, which I think they could have made the pro level if they really wanted to. But I guess they wanted to put in a really insane challenge. And it might not look like it's moving too fast, but when you're playing it, you'll see. So this essentially says that their manual says, put on your bowling shoes and get ready to roll with 10th frame. This simulation gives you the look of real bowling through outstanding graphics and true perspective view, and that's true. It's funny, you can send this to the printer. I've done it in the last few years. So if you have a game you're proud of and you want to print, you can actually hit the print button and it'll send to your printer. Even on this Mac, I was able to send it. So it says with multiple levels of play, realistic pin action, and automatic scoring, and I'd say that it's got fairly realistic pin action. It says 10th frame is a bowling experience the whole family can enjoy, and it's true. I mean, if you've got a little kid that's not, great at it, it starts out with the ball right down the center, so they could just hit the buttons, and with it hooking very little, I think a kid could probably have a good time on this. But if you want to adjust that, you can get a good game. I can't imagine ever throwing a 300 on here, just because of the way the ball reacts and how consistent you have to be, and the pin reaction. But that would be really cool to do one day. But it would be so stressful. I think it might be more stressful than maybe throwing a 300 game for real. Nah, probably not. But out of bowling games, considering the time this came out, and I mean, the only thing they could have added was maybe playing against, let's say, a computerized bowler, because it actually has a demo mode, and maybe there's a way. Maybe I just don't know how to play against a computerized bowler, or a CPU player, whatever you want to call them, artificial intelligence. It would be a neat little trick if you could discover how. I don't believe it's in the manual. And so not having that, it's great because you can play up to 8 people. But if you had just a little bit of competition against the computer, that would be fun. But I mean, they fit this on one floppy disk. I mean, what do you want? So overall, I'd give this game, for when it came out, because if they wanted to be a little more extravagant and put in some other modes, that would have put it over the top. That would have made it a 10 out of 10. So I will give this a 9 out of 10 because it is so fun and it is so solid and it's easy to just pick up, bowl a few games, and then, it kind of makes you want to come back to it. Even all these years later. I mean, 87, but what are we talking, 35 years now? this is still fun. I mean, if you could have a game today that had better graphics, that used the same mechanics essentially, or maybe change it to a 3-click and expanded the meter a little more so you have a little more reaction time, it'd be fantastic. And I mean, that's the other knock. The meter, it keeps it from being a 10 too, because it's a little too short and quick. But this was new back then. You know, they were experimenting with stuff, and I mean, you couldn't do much better. But I would love to hear the history behind how they had the logic or the physics behind it. I'm guessing it's not physics. There's probably some sort of logic back behind how pins will react when they're hit at certain angles and speeds. But you know, it's got to be programmed. They wouldn't have done it for every possible throw, and how they bounce off each other. So, I mean, I guess it's early physics. So sure, I'll say they program physics in there. That's gotta be what happened. But again, if you're looking for an old game, and this is available on abandonware sites, you can download it. It's really small, playing in a DOS emulator, and you'll have a blast. Last time I played this, and it wasn't on Windows 10 because that's 64-bit, but the last time I think I played on a 32-bit system, I could be wrong, I was able to run it just natively in Windows. So I think that was probably back with XP and Windows 7. I don't know if I've tried it on Windows 8, but I doubt it runs in Windows 10. But there's plenty of, DOSBox emulators. Defend Reloaded, is that what it is? Defend is the front end for it. And again, on here, on the Mac, I'm using Boxer, which handles games really well. So I recommend Boxer for anyone that just wants to drag and drop some old DOS games in. This isn't available on anything else that I know. You can't get it on Good Old Games or anything, so, have at it. Enjoy. Download a free copy. I mean, if they could sell this again, I think they would. So I guess we'll leave it at that, and just I'm going to upload some more. I don't know how much interest there is in bowling games anymore. Very little, I know. So there you have it. This is 10th Frame Bowling, and I highly recommend it. And hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again soon. So long.